Now let's look at the comparison operators. Comparison operators, also known as relational operators, are used to compare two or more values. We'll have the greater than, the less than, we'll have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, we'll have the equality and the not equality operators. Now let's start with the greater than. Here we have greater than. And for this operator, we use the greater than symbol. So we can have something like result is equal to 5 greater than 1. So this is a typical comparison operation. You are trying to compare this value and this value. In other words, you are certain that 5 is greater than 1. What this means is that if 5 is indeed greater than 1, we're going to get a true. If not, we'll get false. So let's run the program. Here we have print result. And if I run it, you can see we have true. And the reason for this is because 5 is greater than 1. If I change this to 4, we're also going to get true because 5 is greater than 4. But if I change this to 7, of course, 5 is not greater than 7, so we're going to get a false. So if I run, you can see that we have a false. Likewise, if I change this to 5, I'm trying to say that 5 is greater than 5, which is not correct. So if we run this program, we're going to get a false. So if you want to compare two values to determine whether a value is greater than the other, you use the greater than operator. Now let's look at the next operator. We have less than. And for this operator, we use the less than symbol. Now let me have result is equal to 4 less than 3. Of course, 4 is not less than 3. So when we try to print out results, we're going to get a false. So let's try it out. We have print result and run the program. And as you can see, we have a false. But if I change this to 2, 2 is indeed less than 3. So this statement is actually correct. So if we run this program, we're going to be getting a true. Now let's look at the next operation, which is greater than or equal to. And for this operation, we use greater than an equality symbol. So this is the symbol we use to perform greater than or equal to operation. Now I'm going to have result is equal to 5 greater than or equal to 4. Now let me print out the result. And if I run this program, we're going to get a true. So look at what happens. When you perform this type of operation, you are trying to check whether 5 is greater than 4 or 5 is equal to 4. In this case, 5 is greater than 4, and for this reason, we have our result to be equal to true. Now, if I change this to 5, look at what happens. First, we're going to check whether 5 is greater than 5, which is false. Now, we're going to check if 5 is equal to 5, which is true. And as such, result becomes equal to true. So if we run this program, you can see that we have true. Now, if I change this to 6 and run this program, we're going to get a false. So first, 5 greater than 6, which is not true. 5 equal to 6, which is not true. And as such, we have results equal to false. So this is for the greater than or equal to. Now, let's look at the less than or equal to. So here we're going to have results equal to 1 less than or equal to 3. Now let's print out the result. So just like the greater than or equal to, you are trying to check if 1 is less than 3 or 1 is equal to 3. And in this case, we're going to be getting a true because 1 is less than 3. So if I run it, you can see that we'll have a true. If I change this to 3, we're also going to be getting true because 3 is equal to 3. Now, if we run it, you can see we also have true. But if I change this to 4, 4 is not less than 3 and 4 is not equal to 3. And as such, we're going to be getting false. Now let's look at the next operator, which is the equality operation or equality operator. And for this operation, we use double equality. So whenever we perform an equality operation, we're trying to check whether two values are equivalent or whether two values are equal to each other. Now here I have result is equal to, and here I'm going to have 5 equal to 5. Then I'm going to print the result. Now pay attention to this. When you are using a single equality operator, you are performing assignment. For instance, I'm trying to assign this variable to the result of this expression. So when you use one equality operator, you are performing assignment. But when you use two equality operators, you are performing comparison. You are trying to compare these two values for equality. And because 5 is equal to 5, I'm going to be getting true. So if I run it, you can see that we have true. But if I change this to 4, I'm trying to assert that 5 is equal to 4, which is not true. And as such, we're going to be getting a false. Now, finally, let's look at the not equality operator. And for this operator, we use the exclamation symbol followed by the equality symbol. Just like the equality operator, the not equality operator checks whether two values are not equal to each other. So you are trying to establish whether two values are not equal to each other. So I can have result is equal to 4 not equal to 5. Now let's print out the result. From our expression here, we have 4 not equal to 5, which is correct. So if we run this program, we're going to be getting a true. But if I change this to 5, I'm trying to say that 5 is not equal to 5, which of course is not correct. So if I run this program, I'm going to be getting false.